Man, I'm a sucker for grapple hooks. There's just something so satisfying about soaring through the sky at high speeds or making that perfect swing arc to complete your jump. It doesn't even have to be something to swing from. Just having some kind of mechanism to pull things towards you or vice versa is something that never gets old. All thanks to your trusty rope, cable, or other. This obsession started back in the late 2000s thanks to a mobile game called Hook Champ. Oh man, look at this! Over a decade old and still crushing on the App Store. Even Rocket Cat Games' website is looking the part from the decade. How awesome. Hook Champ was such a good implementation of moving primarily by swinging, and the touchscreen was a perfect conduit for this. The momentum felt great, it was fun to go fast, and there was this cool upgrade system that allowed you to swing longer, get better hooks, and other things. It just goes to show how building something that feels good to play at its root can create a timeless experience. Anyway, you can imagine my interest after discovering Joseph Gribben's Twitter feed was filled with screenshots of pretty sprite work and a dog holding a grapple. Boy, it's Grapple Dog. If that hard-slapping title screen doesn't clue you in, we're in for some fun times here. I've been following Joseph's Twitter since last year. Every clip I saw on his feed reminded me of all the fun I had playing Hook Champ. I hadn't been exposed to another grappling hook game like that, and this happy little golden dog seemed to fit the bill.
Happy to say, it did. Not only that, but Grapple Dog helped me dabble in speedrunning actually. I've always been intimidated by the scene because of the high time commitment it takes just to get decent runs, let alone something like top 10. But the competition to run through just the first 5 levels seemed manageable, and I gave it a shot and wound up having a great time with it. I even held #1 spot on the leaderboard for a moment. It helps being the first entry. Now that was a while ago, and I humbly requested that I not be beaten into the ground too bad. So I couldn't have fallen too far. Okay, let's get started.
Our story begins with a group of treasure hunters. There's Mr. Grapple Dog himself, Pablo, the knowledgeable The Professor, and Tony, the team's mechanic. Their mission to find artifacts left behind by the Great Inventor, a historical figure who introduced helpful devices to the world. While exploring an island, Pablo stumbles into a cave where he does find one of these treasures, but also frees a robot called Null, along with its army.
Well, on one hand, but then you consider, so yeah, worth it.
Null mentions he's on the lookout to find artifacts called the Cosmic Gadgets. Powerful on their own, even more so when brought together, as it'll cause an energy rift powerful enough to destroy the world.
Ooh. Yeah, still worth it.
So, it's up to the team to find all 4 Cosmic Gadgets first. Well, mainly Pablo, that is. By himself, he can do the platforming essentials, running, swimming, jumping, on or off the wall, you get the gist. When he jumps, Pablo curls up into a ball, allowing him to rebound off enemies and obstacles. This can also be triggered by the slam move, where you immediately stop forward momentum and slam downwards. These moves give off a bouncy and springy feeling to Pablo's overall movement. As for the grappling hook, it acts like you'd expect, but Grapple Dog does favor flexible movement. Namely, how you can adjust your vertical position and quickly get your momentum going, or how you can immediately slow down and change direction. This is awesome because it removes the long wind-up time you sometimes see in other games that have swing mechanics. But Grapple Dog takes a more gamey approach, giving the player more precise control of their movement. For instance, look at this jump. Notice how no matter how fast I'm going, I can't make this vertical jump onto the ledge. That's because Grapple Dog's swinging isn't completely physics-based. It seems to be more calculated based on where you are in your swing arc. So when I release at the top, I'll get more jump distance. Keep in mind, that example was about vertical movement. For horizontal, you can cover a ton of distance if you play around with the mechanics. Speedrunners certainly have. Good lord, look at that. While this can lead to some swings feeling jerky, it's rarely noticeable. Overall, the grapple hook movement feels awesome. Most of your swings feel smooth, and combined with Pablo's base moveset, there's plenty of fun platforming to be had here. I just want to highlight how much control you have over your movement, which in my opinion fits better for a 2D action platformer game. Honestly, this had to be purposeful because it felt like the levels were designed with this type of movement in mind. And there are plenty, with new mechanics introduced all the time, like how you can skillfully bounce off of these green bumpers by slamming down on them. Or these floating pockets of water. It was always so fun to dolphin leap everywhere with Pablo's swim boost. Just look at this movement. There's a good amount of mechanics, either by themselves or meshing a few together to create a fun platforming challenge. Not all of them were hits though. I wasn't a big fan of these revolving blue grapple points. Mainly because they made you have to wait to time your swing, which stalled the overall pacing of the level. Some of them only had one grapple point too, so if you missed, you'd really have to wait for it to rotate back around again. Though not all of them had this problem, which proved it was more dependent on how they were implemented.
Overall, these frustrations didn't happen too often. In fact, I'd say the only lasting damage is I can't look at fidget spinners the same way.
So it's fun to go through the worlds, but what's in them? Scattered through each level are purple gems, which you'll need to collect to progress through the worlds. Minimally, you'll only need some to unlock the final stage of each world. And if you're stocked up, you can potentially skip an entire world's worth of levels. That is, if you only wanted to beat the main game. If you want to access the post-game content, then you'll need to do some hunting. But that's the fun part. Grapple Dog's levels are designed for platforming and for hunting these gems. A common thing to look out for are the hidden areas. Most of the time you can pinpoint where they are. But there were definitely a few that took some looking around. Jeez, there was this one that had me platform over these super high ledges to roundabout me back to a gem I saw earlier in the level. It took me a good 5 minutes to figure that one out. These hard to find occurrences are pretty rare. I would say like maybe 2 or 3 times per world you would run into this. Most of the time, Grapple Dog gives you plenty of opportunity to find purple gems if you need them. Like there's these blue coins that unlock extra stages that reward you with 3 purple gems at a time if you complete a time trial or a gem collecting challenge. Also, in each level, you earn a couple more if you collect enough fruit. What even are these?
Okay, thanks, Joseph.
At least one thing's for certain. Grapple Dog goes hard. Everything, and I mean everything, is polished. You've got to appreciate the effort here. For one, the graphics are bright, colorful, and that thick, chunky outline around all the sprites, it's such a fun look. It reminds me of a Game Boy Advance or the DS era of games, how the pixels were clearly defined and it was easier to see that distinct outline around everything. It's a more playful kind of look that fits well with the bouncy, swinging gameplay. And I love it. You see this on all the characters especially, which, by the way, the entire cast was charming and Pablo is such a great main character to play as. He has this we can do it attitude combined with moments that show he's not the sharpest tool in the drawer, but still lovable all the same. Plus, he actually barks like a dog when he's talking. How can you not like him? The rest of the cast, they were great to interact with too. Tony, your mechanic friend, was always eager to help Pablo out no matter how worried she got about what he's been through. Just look at that face. There's also level NPCs such as the chillax otters, emo birds, and cute round polar bears who just want to be your friend. And you can bounce on their heads. Oh my god. I love them all. Aside from the graphics, you can tell a lot of focus was put into the sound design. It was pretty obvious the first time you threw your grapple hook. Oh my god, I can listen to that all day. To me, this sound screams, I got you, do your thing! It's so satisfying, and the rest of the sounds follow suit. Like when you're collecting a lot of fruit in rapid succession, you hear an upward melodic scale. The notes are moving upward just like your fruit count. Smart complement to the gameplay and pleasant sounding at the same time. The work put into making all the sounds pleasing and meshed together was one of my favorite parts about Grapple Dog. Like when the music slows down after you take damage, it'll ramp back up again after respawning. Kinda like a record scratch happened when the platforming groove got thrown off, but now we're ready to try again. And as far as other audio work goes, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the music you've been hearing was composed by the extremely talented Jazz Mickle. Her music is a huge reason why Grapple Dog goes so hard, so go show her some love.
As far as 2D action platformers go, Grapple Dog ranks high in my book. And I couldn't have asked for a better game to scratch that grapple hook itch of mine. It's just got everything. Tight gameplay, cool level design, expressive graphics, and pleasant audio. You know what? I'm gonna let Pablo show you pretty much what I was feeling the entire time.